up, guys? Today I'm going to get some work done on the SI hatchback. About a week or two ago I picked up this transmission from a friend. This one has an LSD installed inside of it, but he was not sure which LSD was in it. He's had it for years, he said, when he used to have an EF with a B swap. It's been sitting in his garage for the longest time, and he agreed to let me use it, let me try it out, put it on the car. And if it's shifting fine, working great, then I'll go ahead and pay him. And he said there wasn't any issues with it. So we're going to take him on a little bit of faith and try that one out today. It's also going to give me an opportunity to use that action clutch that I picked up a little while back. I was going to use it with this B16 LSD transmission, but I don't know if you guys saw that video. If you want, I'll link it in the corner. I had a couple strip bolt holes on the transmission, so I wasn't able to put that in the car. And I'm unsure which transmission I have on here. I've always been under the impression that it was a 92-93 LS, but the gears are pretty quick, and it's when I raced my friend Gabe in his B18 with an LS transmission, pulled on them relatively well. That might be because of the shorter gears, so I'm kind of thinking it might be a 92-93 GSR transmission, but once I get it off, we'll check it and we'll compare it against the new transmission we're going to install today. Before I get started, let me show you a couple things on these transmissions, just give you a little bit of transmission information. I get people asking me every now and then, what's the difference between like a 92 to 93 or the 88 to 91 B series. Here I have, this is an LS 92-93 transmission. This one is a short geared S1. I'm going to show you how we can determine that by rotating the input shaft and seeing how many times the differential spins by putting it into third gear. And I'll also show you the casing itself, which is an easy identifier of a 92-93 transmission. From the outside, when looking at them, all you need to look at is one particular area. Now I set the transmissions up like this because if you were looking in at the top of the car, this is that area you're going to be looking at. You're just going to need to slide underneath in front of the passenger side wheel, and then look underneath. You see how this one has these two bolts right here? These are they're called the Detent Bolts, which have the little bearings that slide out. And this is similar to all like 92 to like 2001 B series transmissions will have that on there. So these have the larger input shaft. On the 90-91, they're missing them. You will not see either of those bolts. So easy identification if you're trying to figure out what year or what kind of clutch you need for your transmission. And if the transmission is off the car already, if you have the clutch disc that's for the correct year, you can see this one obviously fits on this particular transmission. This is for the 88 to 91 B series. And with that same clutch, you'll see that it does not fit on the larger splined input shaft. So easy way to identify it. I always look at the casing first. I'll let you know, and then I have a couple spare clutch discs that I keep just if I ever need to test one out, just to make sure, because I don't know if you can potentially swap these the housing with like 88 to 91 internals. I don't think you can because of those two detent bolts, but just some small indication of how you can determine what year your transmission is and what clutch assembly you may need. The information online for B-series cable transmissions is sometimes hard to decipher. You're going to have different casings, which are going to show, you have J1s, you have B16s, which are YS1s, you have S1s like this, you have some that are missing the decal, so you have no idea. So what we're going to do, we're going to need to mark off the top of the input shaft, which with a point on the transmission that doesn't move, of course, so we can spin it and count the revolutions. Then we're also going to want to mark off the differential and see how many we see how many times this spins in relation to this. We're going to do the same for that LS transmission because I want to show you the difference in both. And the easiest way to do that is put the transmission into third gear. So you're going to take the shift mechanism, the shift rod, and just pull it directly away from the transmission, because imagine when you're in first, second, when you're pushing the car into third gear, that's pushing your shift linkage back, which is essentially pulling this back. So that's what puts it into third gear, and it's easy to identify it by putting it into third gear. Now looking at this information regarding the B series transmissions, this gives us an identification of a lot of different models. We're looking at this S1 over here. You see the S1 J1, third gear, 1.458, and the final drive is 4.4. You'll see those two numbers right there and right there. If you multiply those by one another, it gives you a 6.41. So we're going to test that out on this S1 transmission right now. This transmission's in third gear. What that means is 6.41. This should spin approximately 6 times. 6.5, it should end this line up right at the bottom, 180 degrees from the top. So it should actually be back a little bit, and this will make one full rotation. Let's try that out. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's right around here, 6.41-ish, I guess. 6.25 would be over here. So, and you see where the differential is lined up. That's the one full rotation as compared to the 6.41. Let's move over to the 92 and up transmission. This one's an LS transmission. I already know that just because of the gear ratio. So you have 1.259 times 5.4. And it came out to 5.5. So let's go ahead and test that transmission. This one's also in third gear. I set it up. Let's start the rotations on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.4, 5.5. Let me just pull it a little more. And you'll see how the big difference in the rotations on the differential comparatively. So 5.5-ish. And then on the 8891, we had the 6.4. So that's an easy indication of trying to determine what gear ratio the transmission is. You can just go ahead and multiply the final drive by third gear. And third gear is the easiest. Just pull it straight out instead of trying to twist the shift rod back and forth and slide it in and out. It's just super easy to pull it straight out. And if you look at that S1, it's actually the JDM 9091. It's that Integra XSI with no LSD. So it is a short geared B16 transmission that came inside those JDM Integras. This particular transmission has been outfitted with an aftermarket LSD. You can see it in there. I put up an Instagram post maybe like a week or two ago trying to figure out what LSD it was. Some were saying OBX. I looked, it looks like it might be a Quafe. Regardless, it's still an aftermarket LSD, which is going to be better than one that does not have it. You can see right here, it's an easy indicator as well for those of you that aren't familiar with seeing an open diff as compared to the closed one. So we're going to get this cleaned up. I'm not going to change any of the seals on it now because since the transmission has been sitting in his garage for a little while, it's relatively dusty and dirty. I'm going to put everything together, get it on the car, and then fill it with some regular motor oil. Drive it for maybe 15-20 miles. That way I can get any kind of dust or debris that may be in there out of the transmission. Then I'm going to pull that fluid out, replace all 3 seals, and then fill it with something else, maybe some synchro mesh or some royal purple, any of that transmission fluid that's supposed to help any grinding and just be a little better for it. So we're going to get started on that right now. And before getting started, I'm going to take it for one last spin. I want to record the miles per hour at like 75 and kind of get like a quick 3rd through 5th gear pull. Just want to see and kind of do a comparison when I'm finished what, if any, major differences there are from this transmission to the new transmission. There you go, you can see the speeds I was at, doing 75, doing the 3rd through 5th pull. So let's get to work on this. Here's the old transmission after I got it off. I want to test it. Like I said earlier, I was never sure of which transmission this was. It's a 92 and 93 as well. You can tell by the bolts on the bottom of the transmission. But I had always just assumed it was an LS transmission. I'd never had the chance, and I should have. I don't know why I never checked before. I should have did the spinning of the differential and marking it, but I have it marked now. And now after further inspection, looking at the label on here, you can see an S1. It almost looks like it might be a YS1 because the remainder of the label, the very top of it, it looks like there might have been another letter. But I can't tell. This might even be a similar transmission to mine. So we got this marked off. The differential and the input shaft. I have it in 3rd gear. One thing that I've always not liked is, see how this is grinded right here? Whoever owned it before me, they grinded a small portion of it out. They were probably having trouble getting the linkage pin in or out, so that's always bugged me. I'd like to get that fixed. Luckily, I never had an issue with it, and the entire 2.5, 3 years that I've been using this transmission. Now let's spin the input shaft and see where the diff lines up at. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow, this looks like it is same kind of transmission that I'm putting on the car. About 6.4 also. And we're looking at that chart again. I wouldn't doubt if it's this YS1, this 9293 Integra GSR. I doubt it's JDM one, but you never know. Could have been taken off of a motor. That transmission I got on an 89 Civic shell that had a B20 in it that I bought back in the winter of 2014. So I've had it for quite a while and have been using it on my track car since 2015. So I'm pleasantly surprised. I don't mind. So honestly, if you look at the ratios, it's pretty much the same throughout except for 1st gear. Even 5th gear is a little different too. And then the final drive is exactly the same. So the only benefit I'm going to get is from that LSD, which should make a huge difference. I won't see any increase, I don't think, in the speed or the RPMs, depending on the miles per hour. But that limited slip should hopefully be the added benefit of me doing this extra work today. I got the clutch finished up and the transmission is good to go. Got the throwout bearing on, new release spring. I checked this transmission long before I took it home. All of the bolt holes are in good shape, nothing's stripped, nothing's punctured like that B16 transmission. All these are good to go. Now I just need to get it put back onto the car and get it all put back together. And while putting everything back together, I just want to take a quick second to say thank you to Justice Olenkamp, I think that's how you say it. He sent me these cool, here's some rod end boots, and he'd been searching for something to put on his innovative radius rods at the end to help protect the spherical bearing in here. He found these rod end boots, so he ended up sending me a set That way I could use some on my track car, especially since where our track is, it's a lot of dust, sand, and everything. That way you can minimize the amount of dirt that gets on these joints. And here's a look at them installed. He said the easiest way was to take the threaded end, and I pushed it through one of the sides, and then I just used WD-40 to make it everything lubricated, and I was able to just slide it through. And now I'll feed these in there, feed the edges over that, and just go ahead and reinstall these. So actually a really nice boot. It's really tight there. It looks like it'll be tight once I pull these little lips over this lip, so there won't be any dirt or dust getting in there. So Justice, thanks again, man. I really appreciate it, and all you guys that watch my videos, I really appreciate everything you guys do for me in terms of supporting me, leaving comments, likes. Thank you so much, guys. And I know it's a little dark down here, but here's a look at them installed. They fit perfectly, and it's going to help protect it now. So thanks again, man. Just wanted to show everyone. Pretty cool little idea. And I'm going to go ahead and link his Instagram, so if maybe you guys want to contact him, maybe he can help us out and tell us where exactly we can buy those from. And with the new transmission on, one lesson and tip I like to always share is that always drain whatever else was left in that transmission. It's easiest to do so when it's on the car because it's at its lowest point. Now you can just get any residual oil that was still remaining in there. And another tip, I like to lift the car so it's raised up higher on the passenger side. As you can see, the rear wheel lifted off the ground. That way when you're adding the transmission oil, transmission fluid, whatever you want to call it, it actually, it's easier to put all of it into the transmission without it leaking out the side. The B series are 2.1 quarts, right around there, 2 quarts. So that way you can just measure it off there, and that way you're not losing a bunch onto the floor. Alright guys, and I got it finished up. Just finished going for a little drive and trying to put some miles on that clutch. Got about 70 miles on it now. So I won't be able to get an update video for another week or two once I have it broken in, and I'm going to take it to the track and we'll really test it out there. But I've never driven with an LSD before, and maybe some of you guys have a little bit of experience with that, but like when I first started the car and leaving in first gear, it was a lot of like shuddering. It almost felt like one of the CV axles was loose, so I jacked the car up, checked the axles, it was okay. But maybe you guys can give me a little input on that. But after driving it for not even 2 or 3 miles, maybe after just getting it moving, it feels perfectly fine. There is a little bit of excessive movement in. It's basically when I leave like in first gear from a stop and I'm turning either right or left like onto a street. It'll shudder a little bit, it just feels a little odd, but everything above that's perfectly fine, no issues at all. So we're gonna keep putting some miles on it, get it broken in, and we're gonna test it out the track in about 2 weeks from now. So I'll give you guys an update video once I get to that point, and hopefully we have no issues with it. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.